it picked up was me doing the UUUs. Hey, fellow film buffs, England Teen here for Xtreme Movie Show, along with, of course, Rob Classic.
Good evening, sir.
The classic Rob, man. We missed each other on Tuesday. We had a little bit of a snafu in communications. Because I got home a little bit late and I had dinner, and I just you said you had to go out, and I said, oh, I'm finishing dinner, which meant I was finishing dinner and ready to go. And you're like, well, okay, I guess we'll do it tomorrow. And when you sign out, you're out.
Yeah, that's true. That is true, sir. Yeah. One of my many business interests. I do not have one singular particular field that I can specialize in, unlike our third guest tonight, Dr. Venkman.
Hey, hello to you.
Good evening, sir. Milking the cows lately?
No. I can say something bad about that, but I won't. I'll bite my tongue on that, sir.
That's that's
quite which is the theme of tonight's movie, Train to Busan. Take it away, baby.
Okay, so Train to Busan. It was released 2 years ago in America, and I saw it then because I heard about it. It was one of these things that it was just going along. If you're following movies, if you're like myself, you're a big film buff. You're hearing about things, and I'm hearing about this movie, Train to Busan. You got to check it out. There's 2 Korean films. One's an animated one, and one is is Train to Busan. Both of them are taking place in a train station, zombie films. So I watched this movie, and I'm amazed by it. It's a zombie film, and it's about this passenger train that is going to Busan, Korea. And they just get hit by the zombie attack. And they, of course, are just trying to find safe haven along the lines before they reach Busan, because they hear that everybody's going to be quarantined. They might not make it and all that kind of stuff. It defies some rules of the zombie tropes. And it, of course, follows a lot of the zombie tropes. And overall, and I'll say this, the very ending is it's a 5 hanky film. At the ending, at the very least. So, obviously, though, we have 2 opinions here. As usual, I like the movie, and as usual, Rob's wrong.
Well, Doctor, do you have something for my cough? Because I'm starting to choke on it, and he might be here too, because this movie's not good. I will just say that.
It is awesome.
Now, from the get-go, it's not good. Do you want me to tell you why? Or do you want to take it scene by scene, or how do you want to do this?
I'll let Negative Nelly. I'll tell you what. Oh, well, you could go by scene by scene if you want, but okay. So the movie starts out, and we see we see what's causing it. You know, basically the deer that gets hit, and he's the diseased one. He comes back to life and everything. And we're hearing about all these news casts about riots breaking out all over Korea. And then we meet the protagonist, who's a businessman. He's divorced. He's going to be picking up his daughter and going to visit his mother. And that's when they get onto the train. You have anything to say about that?
Yeah. So the deer thing, okay, interesting visual. Lets you know that allegedly it's supposed to be a horror movie, which it is not. It's more an action movie. And I say it's not horror because it's a very dumb film, which we'll talk about.
No, it's not.
Completely stupid. Really, just
one of the best parts about this horror film is it creates moments of intense, intensity. It creates some really intense moments in broad daylight, and that's something that you just don't see in a lot of horror films. So, some movies rely on the darkness, and this one will make you kind of put you on the edge of your seat in broad daylight.
I will agree that if semi-decent makeup of people acting like zombies bashing against windows 5-6 times is considered high action, then I will give you that point. Certainly not horrific. It's almost quite laughable, not believable. I will say this.
You said the word horrific. I said the word intense. 2 different things.
Well, you said it was a horror movie, so that's no, not a horror movie because it wasn't scary. And intense, no. But what you did say that I did like and agree with is that, and this is part of it's because allegedly some of the internal logic of the movie, which is not really solid, is that you said that there was a lot of scenes during the day in the sun that they try to create some intensity. And I agree that I appreciate and like the fact that it was there. There is a certain romanticism that's seductive about being on trains, whether they're the bullet trains or old-fashioned trains. I like trains, so that's great. It's got a great setup for it. but backing up to what you described here with this introductory scene meeting the protagonist, I think the boy in blue, which we're going to talk a lot about in a little bit, he described the protagonist the best when he says, look at this chump, because that's what this guy is. And that's one of the main problems with this movie from start to finish is, other than him, there's zero likable characters. So to me, I don't care what the zombie stuff is as far as how it was created. They didn't really explain it. They didn't go into it. It was like World War Z, just the Korean version of it. There's really nobody to root for other than him.
I disagree. Him, the pregnant lady and her husband, and of course the daughter are definitely likable. The baseball player is. The girlfriend of the baseball player is a little bit shrill, and she's not given enough screen time. But yeah, everybody else on the train, okay, I could go with that. Especially, of course, they do have Evil McEvilson. You know, if you want to talk about a flaw of the film, Evil McEvilson is definitely a big flaw, because at one point he does something evil and everybody backs him right after it, and it's so obvious that he did something evil, and yet still everybody backs his play. The one thing I'm going to say about the beginning part, since we're there, is that I found that part to be slow. It's called Train to Busan. Let's get there a little quicker. It took just a few minutes too long to get to the train, and that I will say is a weak part of the story. Once they get on the train, though, once the ball gets rolling, I thought it was smooth sailing as far as the pacing is concerned.
It was paced well, where they gave you what they would call an action sequence, and then they gave you a couple minutes of some really dumb stuff for you to get angry about and go, man, this is a really silly film. And then they would go on to whatever their next action sequence is, which is just mostly people in makeup. But I will say this. I like the fact that for the most part, it seemed like it was practical effects. The makeup was decent. And I did like how some of the people looked like zombies, whether they were acting disjointed and walking and stuff there too. But just the whole logic of, even if you don't understand how they were created or what the rules of the game were when you're supposed to suspend disbelief, you'd have some zombies like turning in like 2 seconds, and others would take 2 minutes. Your Evil McEvil guy at the end seemed to take forever. It just seemed to be very, very convenient for the plot, and that's kind of the whole point. And that has actually been a zombie trope. It could take from this long to this long. This is not a Train to Busan thing. This has happened since almost the beginning, where sometimes it depends on where the bite is and how severe the bite is as well. So that's not something I'm going to blame Train to Busan for. I understand. You're absolutely right. It does show a little bit of inconsistency, but this is an inconsistency with the genre rather than the movie. I was going to mention one thing I also liked was the fact that we're calling them zombies, but they're not traditional zombies. They're infected people with a disease rather than the dead that have risen. And that's one of the things that your call on the fact that this is World War Z, but in Korea is absolutely, I think, spot on. And one of the things that shows that is that they could take some of the zombies out, not by like killing the brain or anything like that, but they're human. So they're, you break the bone, they ain't going to use it. They're going to get knocked down. You can incapacitate or kill them by, a good chest wound or something like that. And you get that there's a scene where they're trying to get from one end of the train to another to get to the pregnant wife and the daughter. And the guy's using a baseball bat and he's just knocking him along. Now, of course, traditionally they would have to actually smash the skull all the way in. So that's one thing as well that needs to be mentioned. It isn't a traditional zombie as much as an infected human. Hello, by the way, to the Cinnamon Queen saying, I haven't seen this movie. I need to see it. I'm a huge horror fan. I think so. Rob says he could skip it. But there you go. I swear Rob needs to narrate documentaries of Train to Busan. Yeah. Okay. Busan, leaving to what was the name of the station? Dijon. I kept saying the Dijon mustard station.
I want to see what you think about the other one as well. I don't know how because it is it's a much more
Decent?
morose. No, it's much more. What's that word when all is lost kind of film?
Hopeless? Nihilistic?
Yeah, not realistic, but definitely hopeless.
Nihilistic.
It's called Soul Station, and yeah, try finding that one. I think you'll enjoy it. It's probably on the animated site that that Dr. Venkman is shared with. So, okay, the first stop. We'll talk about that. The first stop. It's all empty for a bit, and they're looking for. They think they're all safe, and they get to a certain point. The father says, "Wait here," and they go check out. And of course, all the army that is there supposedly to save them turns around, and they're zombies, and it begins the chase. This is the first the first really good intense moment when it's the father trying to get to the daughter before the zombies do. I liked it. I thought it worked quite well. You kind of feel here's the real setup and the real theme of the movie is you have a father, and in the Asian culture, a lot of times when you work for a company, you throw yourself into it. They are almost more loyal to the company than they are to the family. The daughter is feeling exactly that. The dad doesn't care so much about her than she does care about what's outside of the house.
Well, she's right.
And it's all about this guy trying to live up to the father while to his daughter, while the daughter doesn't understand what he's doing for her. He doesn't understand anything about going to work, or she doesn't understand about going to work, making money, make sure that she's taken care of financially. That's going to come into play a little bit later. I don't want to reveal anything just yet, but this whole scene is really intense. And then I got to give it to Rob. As soon as they get the daughter out of the way, becomes a straight up action scene. Do you want to take it away from here?
Yeah, because to me, I would say it's not a horror movie. It's supposed to be an action movie, but everyone says, "Oh man, this thing is nonstop action from A to B on the train." I'm like, okay, and I agree with you. I don't mind a slow setup like it was at the beginning. I know you're not crazy about that. So when they had an action sequence, that's fine. But this is supposed to be tense. It's really not, because there's going to be zombies there. Nobody had half a brain, seeing all these bodies laying around and everything. So they're pretty dumb about it. None of them were even tried to be armed. None of them had to say anything. It was just a pure plotless, easy, contrived plot point to just walk down there and see all that. Now, while it may have looked good, all of a sudden they'll turn around and chase them. That's fine. But again, the whole hokey, stupid scene of the little girl standing there while he's like looking at her and they're zooming in on his face. And then you get our Blue Velvet guy, even though it's a regular suit, he's got the scarf, he's rocking it. The dude's a badass looking guy. He's a big dude. He's got the pregnant wife.
We're gonna talk about him later.
Yes.
As well.
Yes. He, does the thing where he jumps in and they cut the camera and he elbows the one in the face and saves the girl and all that. But it's just silly stuff that you get like 100 zombies all piling on the doors and they're trying to hold them back, and the entire thing is rocking and it holds them until it's convenient when they walk 10 feet away from it, then they all spill through. And it's just at this point I'm going, okay, I don't know what the zombie rules are. It would be cool if I discovered a rule here and there with different situations, but no thought or effort was put into that. It made it seem to be very convenient. And I will disagree about the entire father thing. While the Asian culture, to your point, there's a lot of emphasis placed on the loyalty and working for a company and everything else there too. I imagine that being a Japanese from the back of my brain, but also possibly being, like you said, Korean. I'll give that a pass. But here's the thing. The guy's not likable. I felt that he just wanted to dump the girl off because he was such a loser, couldn't even remember what he bought her for a gift, and it's sitting right there on the counter of the product placement thing, Nintendo Wii. It's like, dude, you're such a loser. You have zero emotion about you. I don't want to see you on the screen at all anymore. So I just felt like he really wanted to just dump her off to get rid of her, not because he wanted to make her happy, because this guy is soulless. He's got no heart. And if you're going to be soulless and don't have a heart, be Patrick Bateman, be Michael Douglas and a hard ass. Don't be this guy that is completely ballless. I mean, this guy was not a man at all. I'm not saying he was a wuss ass, but he bordered on it. And every scene that involved him trying to be a father failed. And they show this other guy basically being a real man and a father. See, naturally, you're rooting for the guy. And the guy's got a pregnant wife. She is very charming. And actually, I will correct myself. I think around this point, I think there are two sisters. They're older. I thought were decent side characters that they didn't explore enough, but they're just there conveniently for the one scene that happens a little bit later. So at this point, with them running off and everything, I'm going, okay, this is going to be what we would call in wrestling a spot fest, where they don't tell a story, but everybody does 1,001 moves, kicks out of their finisher just to get it on screen. And I just felt like that was the attempt of the movie, and that's not good. That's not good.
I completely disagree with you on this one. This is a family film, as far as that's what it's all about. This guy is becoming more aware. He's becoming more into it. Like I said, he was a work guy. He's a company man. He's somebody who thinks the way you take care of the child. The man's job to take care of the child isn't the nurturing parts. It's all of making sure that that he provides the money for it, and that's the way he's been showing love at this part. So all throughout, he's got to learn. He has been learning, and he does learn that she is somebody that he has to take care of as far as the nurturing sections. By the way, we're both in agreement of the guy with a pregnant wife, and we're going to be getting to him as soon as possible. The zombie, as far as the zombie rules, this movie really does count on you already knowing what those rules are.
Disagree, because again, it's very unclear about what they are and what they can do, and I don't mind that as a mystery. And I did not go in there thinking they needed to go by the generic rules of zombies that are out there.
I'll tell you something that I will give to you, something that I saw that was kind of silly. You know, they go through a tunnel, and I'm going to skip through. Okay, we get to the old ladies, they get separated. And at this, as everybody gets back on the train, it gets moving. You get 3 groups. You get the baseball player, the dad, and the guy in the blue suit, the guy with the pregnant wife. And then you've got the pregnant wife, the little girl.
Korean Chuck Norris.
Okay. And you got the pregnant wife, the little girl, and the old lady, one of the sisters. And then you've got everybody else in a further train. And the pregnant wife and little girl get in trouble, and so they call the dad, and he knows that they have got to travel through the train that is, filled with zombies at this point to get to them and save them. And at one point they go in through a tunnel, and it's dark, so they find out that it's all sight, and if they go quietly, they can make it past. That part I found weird, because as soon as you become a zombie, your eyes glaze over. And I thought, wouldn't it be more that they would be like sound or smell or something like that? What with the eyes glazed over? That part I just kind of thought was a little weird.
Conveniently stupid, dumb, lack of writing. It's an insult to be watching this. To them just decide.
Yeah, it's not that bad. Come on.
And then they do the we're going to crawl in the luggage thing while it's quiet. Oh my gosh, are they going to make it? What is going to happen?
You're like one of those people who see say like Batman v Superman. It's the worst movie I've ever seen. Then you just haven't seen enough movies. This is not the most horrid thing. You might not like. This is not the most horrid thing that's ever been put to screen. And plus, I do like the fact that with those rules, they did come up with some decent ideas. And then they also picked up a homeless guy on that last one, which I thought was weird.
Well, the one scene that kind of started me off, honestly, on the whole stupidity angle of this movie, and I don't know why. Maybe it's the way it's shot, in all sincerity, but it bothered me. And that's when they're getting ready to board the train, and it's 2 scenes really. One was the whole dumb scarf thing, where the guy says, "Your scarf," and she has to turn it. I don't get that. It just seemed like a prick. And then the other one was when the guy on the outside's given the all set, and as soon as he turns his back, you get one just sneaking on there. It's like, that's convenient.
No, she wasn't a zombie. She was just a girl, and she had been bit.
Stuck on there, and she turned when she got on there. So I thought of her as the zombie. So to me,
no, she wasn't. At that point, she wasn't a zombie yet. She was just a girl trying to get on a train. And more so, she was a girl running away from something, which, as you saw, the little girl passes, they pass by the zombie that girl was running away from, gets the guy who was like all aboard or last chance to board or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's when the wheels started to really fall off.
But it was perfect timing, and it all made sense there. Okay. Anyway, I mean, you could tell me, you could say about the zombies bursting through the door at the last minute, just for convenience sake. And okay, I can't argue that, because that's exactly what happened. like I said, there's a lot of zombie tropes in this film. Doesn't make it a bad movie. It's very entertaining. And now, okay, so let's get to the scene. So the guys do make it to the old lady, the pregnant wife, and the little girl, his daughter, the pregnant wife, and the old lady, the sister. And they decide, oh, well, no, we've got to talk about going over, because this is when the guy shows their badassery. It's the man, the father, the husband, and a baseball player. The baseball player is the only guy with a weapon because he came on with a bat, and he decided when he got off the train, he was bringing a bat. That's something I agree with you on. Nobody armed themselves. Nobody thought, hey, I'm in danger. Why don't I pick up one of these stanchions or something, anything? I can understand not a lot. I mean, this isn't America, so not a lot of weapons available. Fine, but you could still pick up something from around. Like if you see a stick, if you see it, like I said, a stanchion or something you could use as a weapon or something, use it. But so the guy's got the ball bat, and the big guy takes off his jacket and then wraps his arms and hands. And that's when I realized, oh, okay, so they're not zombies. They're just, because the big guy is beating them up. And that's one thing I actually liked. One thing I don't like is when movies and TV shows, zombie shows, don't treat zombies like former humans. They are. You incapacitate them, they're not going to be able to come at you as fast. Break their legs, take their arms, do something along that line, and they're not going to be able to act and react. And this film did that with this big guy, who, one of my favorite scenes, of course, is when this little zombie jumps ahead of me, just kind of throws him into the ceiling and smashes him down.
That's the best scene of the movie to me. Literally, I looked at that and went, oh man, why don't they should have made this movie around this guy, and it would have been more entertaining for lots of reasons. One, if again, the main protagonist is not somebody you care about. So you just, whether it's about redemption or not, give me something to make me see it. And I just don't. But with this guy with a pregnant wife, his inherent limitations are built in. He's got to tend to her first. He's acting like the father figure that she never had. We get that. Plus he's kicking ass. So this guy's paying the price to, be a human being. He is the hero figure. And so whether that was intentional or not, it comes across as this guy's a loser and you got this other guy being a hero. And having him on here being so good as a scene stealer, again, is another testament to how poorly written and schlocky this is, and makes it look all the more worse until we get to the very end.
Well, that's the thing. If you're not following the redemption story, it's not going to be as strong for you. And obviously that didn't work for you. It did for me. I saw it. So they get everybody together, and then they get to the car where everybody's waiting, and they manage to get through. But Evil McEvilson decides to shut the doors on the guys coming through. And this is where I'm gonna side with Rob for a little bit, and we're just gonna go off on the movie, because for me this has been a good zombie film. For Rob, it's been a piece of shit. For me, it brings it down a little bit. For Rob, it just confirms it. I'm going to speak for you on that, if you don't mind.
If it's the scene I'm thinking of.
This is the scene where
all hands on deck.
Everybody's trying to get in, and he's there, no, and he's shutting the door, and he's not letting anybody in, when it's clear that there's enough time and space for everybody to get in. The reason why it is because the cool character is actually holding all the zombies back as well as he can. And you could see, and they show strength. I mean, he just starts straining. He is really just, as everybody's trying to pull down on him, and he's getting cut, and he's getting bit, and he's getting everything. And this guy's just doing what he needs to do to make sure his wife survives, and everybody else secondary. But yeah. And this Evil McEvilson, no, even though he spent more time holding the door than he would have been, okay, everybody come in, shut.
Yep.
And everything would have been okay. So after this happens, the hero, the guy Rob doesn't like, punches Evil McEvilson, and he goes down and goes, he's one of them, he's bitten. And everybody who just saw Evil McEvilson try to kill everybody involved decides that they're gonna believe him. Oh, and I did forget that the old sister, she couldn't make it. She ended up getting killed, And this is important for later. But so here's the really dumb part, and that one pissed me off. This part pissed me off, but this is where I'm going to side with Rob and say this was a dumb move. They tell everybody to get out of the car. Now, what happens is they're in the car. The zombies, oh my God, run up to this door, and they're shut. So all the zombies are behind this door. You got all the heroes right here. And they say, okay, we don't want you here because you're going to turn into them. We don't trust you. Go. So what they do is they push them further back into the cars away from the zombies. And I'm thinking, wait a second. Why are you in the car right next to the zombies? Why doesn't everybody go back there and shut the damn door? And then then the zombies come into an empty one and they don't know, okay, they can't see you. Therefore, you're going to be safe. Anyway.
Silly, ridiculous.
That part right there, that part right there, I'm absolutely on Rob's side about.
Yeah, well, it's just to the point where, like I say, okay, even if you know what's coming, sometimes just watching it happen and the way it's done or shot can be good enough. I'm not saying I hate this film, but it's pretty dumb. It's stupid. It's really not entertaining. It's a waste of time. And I frankly just don't get the alleged hype for it. And I know the end is supposed to be this big thing, which we'll talk about here shortly. But let's talk about, I'll talk about a minor scene and then hand it over to you for the other scene, pun intended. But the scene where they go to, where they have to go from one train to another, so they have to get off, and then they're getting on the other one, and then all the zombies are behind them. And of course, it's like World War Z, where there's like a couple zombies holding onto the rails, and the train's taking off, and literally you see this huge pile of zombies kind of grasping and holding on to each other. Which one? They've shown zero intelligence. It's not even a group mentality. Group think like bees or wasps or something, but yet how are these zombies, which to your point, if they get injured or mildly sprained or whatever, they're not going to be that functional. How the hell can they hold on to them while their train's going? They did it for the stupid visual. And you know what? Yeah. I'm all about great visuals. That's why Dr. V and I covered Mandy on the Xtreme Horror Show the other night, because of the visuals, and it's a good written movie. This movie's so dumb written that it seems like they only wanted to have scenes in there to try to show off some stuff. And so that, again, is insulting to it. But then you have hero guy, Korean, Chuck Norris, holding back the door, and what happens? I swear we didn't see this one coming.
Okay, hold on. So anyway, before that, there's one of my favorite scenes. There is a train wreck, and one of them falls up against another one, and they're looking at windows filled with zombies, and they're trapped between two trains. I loved that scene. I thought that was done very well. It was very much like what Hitchcock would say, where he's like, you show the bomb first, and then you have everybody, okay, hurry, just get out of there. And that's how I felt that scene was. So
Shatner did it better in Impulse when he drowned his first lady in the lake.
So they get to another train. Evil McEvilson is one of the people who survived to get to the train, and he's bit. So now the father has to get Evil McEvilson off of the train, and he's a freaking horrible character. I don't like this character in any movie. They're like evil for evil's sake, but there's like no motivation beyond it. So yes, and so they do fight, and the father ends up winning, and he knocks him off the train. And we find out later that and this is what, I mean, we've been spoiling the hell out of everything for the last half hour anyway, but we find the father's been bitten. And so, in this, I've got to tell you that, you know what, that little girl, you got to give it up to her for her age. That intense of a scene, she nailed it, man. That's the part that I'm talking about. Whether or not you cared about the dude, the girl sold that freaking scene as she realizes her dad says goodbye, and she does, this is a daughter that's always just wanted her dad to come home, wanted the love. And this is where the movie really does cap off its cap off its themes. The daughter does not know, the kids do not know the sacrifices that the parents make for them every day. They don't understand the sacrifices they make for them every day. They stay away at their job, make money to take care of them, to make sure they're okay. And the kids may sometimes think, well, he doesn't love me because he's always doing this, when they're making sacrifices to be there. And now the guy's been bitten. Now he needs to walk away. Now he needs to make sure he's nowhere near her to save her life. She doesn't understand that sacrifice. She's too young. She can't even wrap her mind around it. And the father steps out on the edge of the train, and I'm serious. Just watch that scene alone if you're not going to be watching this movie. But he steps out on the train, and this girl is ballistic in the grief and the yelling, the screaming, and the crying and everything. And the father, of course, starts thinking of his little girl, remembers when she was born, remembers the happy times, the time away from work, the time that he should have been spending. And as he does, we kind of see the shadow falling, and as he kind of just lets himself fall off the train, so he's not a danger to his daughter. Now, I'm a little bit different. I would have thrown pregnant lady after Evil McEvilson and made sure that I was there to protect my daughter. But I'm a different breed of cat. That was the way they decided to that's the way they decided to end the movie. And I thought that was an incredibly powerful scene. Okay, Rob.
Completely schlocky. I've seen better acting and drama on As the World Turns, for God's sakes.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did. And here's the thing. You're not saying this about this movie, and I'm going to put words in your mouth, but when you started off by saying about the children not understanding what parents do for them, in a way, I will agree with you when I say this. It's definitely an anti-family film, and it's definitely an anti-male film, and there's definitely nothing positive to really say about all this.
The men are always the one that are stepping up, and the man
that did step up died, and then you get the goofball dad who really, thinks he might redeem himself, but nobody cares about him anyway.
Right. Exactly what
so it has zero emotional impact because of the fact that the guy was.
It's all about the sacrifices men make for the people they love. This is the
He never came across as being lovey-dovey at all. He had a pulse of 42.
That was his arc. And that's what happens at the end. This entire movie is about the sacrifices that men make. This isn't an anti-male film. This is a pro-male film. This is exactly what we are talking about. The men put themselves out there every day. Men do sometimes small things, sometimes big things, and sometimes the ultimate sacrifice, which we're called upon to do to protect those we love. And that's what this movie's all about.
I've been listening to both your arguments, and I want to interject my opinion.
Okay,
doctor.
We said, that I'm a big fan of it. Rob doesn't like it. We said Venkman's going to be the final vote.
I will say this: the story I got from watching this is the father is supposed to be a douchebag. That's what. Yes, he learns from the other guy who's not even a dad yet, but he's a great guy. And towards the end, he realized, you know what? The best he can do is he can save his daughter, keep her alive, whether he's alive or not. And that's why he sacrifices himself instead of pushing the pregnant lady in there, because that'd be a douche move. And that would have been his original point of view. Remember, she said, "Why are you so selfish? Why don't you care?" Because she wanted to tell the other people at the train yard, when the soldiers are coming out, the zombie soldiers. She's like, "You only care about yourself. Why? This is why mommy left you." It's the guy redeems himself at the end. I agree. At the beginning, he's a total douchebag, and and even the guy who said it, he's like, his wife got it bad. He's like, don't tell her, don't say that crap about her in front of her about her father, because seeing how much of a douchebag the guy is,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, no, she needs to hear it, and she's like, no, she's like, I completely agree. my dad's not a nice guy, but I gotta say though, this movie was lukewarm. It's not great, and it's not horrible. It's right down the middle. And that's kind of where I was happy with that. It wasn't too much gore. It wasn't too much unbelievable. I had a little bit of comedy in it as well. I mean, this is what I like. I enjoy these kind of movies. It doesn't have to be the greatest. It doesn't have to be the worst. It has to have a freaking story and tell the story.
Okay. There we go.
And it had a happy ending.
I guess I kind of dig that. So you've got the one who really likes it, the one who really hates it, and the one that thought It's all right.
Should we be any less extreme this evening?
I know, right? Well, no particular side won, but as far as that particular debate is concerned, I don't know.
I enjoyed this movie, man.
Mm-hmm.
The scene where they're like the train tipped over is where that's the moment where the dad redeems himself. He's fighting to get out because he's trying to lift the heavy things to get out.
Mm-hmm.
With you guys, the one person you guys failed to mention through the whole entire movie is the bum.
The bum is freaking awesome. Yeah, you're right about that.
He was a comedy the whole entire movie.
Yeah, it is a good film.
That's where we learn Evil McGee, whatever it is, Evil McEvil, is where she says my mom says that people who say to stuff are bad people, and he's like, your mom needs to go to school and all. She must have flunked school, and it turns out that guy was the evil guy the whole entire way.
And now we're not going to go any further. I'm not going to go any further for the story. I think we've said what we need to. I can say this. I told Gail that this is a great film, and I think you should watch it. She's not a big fan of reading movies, and this is a foreign film. And in my opinion, if you're going to watch a foreign film, watch it with subtitles so you get the real acting from it. Because sometimes when it's dubbed, you get like third-rate actors in there. Yeah. Except for the Miyazaki films done by Disney, they make sure you got some good actors doing that. But yeah, by the end of this movie, like I said, it's a 5 hanky, and Gail was over there. Waterworks.
It was kind of sad, he finally realized, hey, what he has, and then he gets bits. Then he's watching the image of when his daughter was born. He's remembering it all. Yep. Basically, what he used to be like before he became a cold son of a bitch.
See, now here's the thing. Here's where I think it would be. I think Rob would change his mind. Now, instead of a daughter, the man saving a dog. I think Rob, Waterworks. He's got to leave his puppy. He's got to leave him. Why?
Well, I know you're making light of it, but in all seriousness, even if this guy's story was supposed to be about redemption, and we're supposed to have this big, as you say, 5 hanky, which is BS, should have been called Train to Suckville. I mean, we should, from the very beginning, be emotionally invested in him somehow, some way. And he was not douchey enough to hate, not like Mr. McEvil. Okay, and he was not cool or hip, and he was completely thrown off screen as an absentee dad with Korean Chuck Norris. So the point is you have no emotional investment in him all the way up to the point where he allegedly sacrificed himself. I think he was just going for the putting himself out of his misery because he's sick and tired of being a loser dad, and he can't stand it. And she's the only thing he's dropping off to his wife, who's probably got everything in a divorce too anyway. So good riddance, kill yourself, bro, because
actually
they didn't add anything to it.
They were going to see his mother. Anyway, Johnny's saying if anyone saw the beefy action dude in the film, Don Lee, he is the big action star in Korea.
You guys are both wrong. They're going to drop his daughter off at her mom's place because they're getting divorced.
What I was saying.
His mom died on the phone talking to him.
Yep.
All right. Well, there you go.
But yeah, they're really great scene. I mean, yeah, was it corny when they're climbing across the luggage racks? Which were it broke? There's a 50-pound limit on those things. You can't. That's why they're called overhead luggage. But no, I loved it when the freaking they went through the tunnels. They realized, hey, they're freaking blind. I think that was cool because I normally don't see that in zombie movies or anything like that. So they learned how to distract them. Use a cell phone. He's like, and he, one of the guys like cell phone is like, why are you such a techie ringtone? It's like it's. There were certain scenes that I liked in this movie. There were certain scenes were cringy, yes. So come together and shake hands.
Or movie or action movie, Doctor.
You're not gonna like this, Rob. I'm gonna say it's a gory horror action movie. And I know you don't like horror. Horror is one separate genre. You can't have.
He doesn't like mixed genres.
I can see it being as a horror because if I was in a situation, I'd be horrified. Yes, is there action? Because any zombie movie, there is action in it. There's always a guy with a gun. There's always people being thrown over. So by that means, Dawn of the Dead could not be a horror movie.
Well, alrighty then.
Johnny's highly recommending Parasite. Parasite's been getting all sorts of accolades this year from Korea. I'm going to be watching it pretty quick here anyway. And yeah, we know it's not the Demi Moore one.
There we go.
What's up?
So here we go. People hating on Demi Moore movies.
As well, some of them they should. Anyway, guys, that's Train to Busan, man. Take it from Rob, myself, or Venkman. I recommend you see it. Rob recommends you stay away from it, and Dr. Venkman,
I recommend you get your money back if you're on that train.
there you go. Okay, guys. Now, in just a few, I'm going to be making a thumbnail for this one, and then after that, we're going to get started on at prefer around 8 o'clock. Doing the best of the 1990s, and what we've done here, we are inviting Dr. Venkman for this particular top 10 this time around, because we're going to be giving our top 10 movies of the 1990s, be it 91, 92, all of them for the entire decade. And Dr. Venkman's going to be counting down the ones that came from the score that you guys voted on. So we're going to have all three of this, no runner-ups.
That's right. I'll be the voice of the people.
He is the voice of the people.
Doctor.
This countdown is for the people. There you go. All righty. But thank you very much for hanging out with us. Thank you very much for adding to the conversation. As always, thank you very, very much for watching. And remember, stay extreme.
Stay extreme.